Welcome, beautiful damsels. The knives that cut deepest are often held by the hands we trusted most. Betrayal is a bitter pill, but nothing stings quite like the treachery of those we hold dear. For Sigma females, the enigmatic, fiercely independent women who operate outside the traditional social hierarchies, the betrayal comes not just as a shock, but as an inevitability. Studies show that betrayal is most likely to occur in close relationships, where trust is high and boundaries are often blurred. For Sigma females, this risk is amplified. Why? Because their very essence, strength, autonomy, and an unapologetic refusal to conform, challenges the comfort zones of those around them. It's as if their self-sufficiency acts like a mirror, reflecting insecurities and inadequacies back at the people closest to them. And when you hold up a mirror, not everyone likes what they see. But here's the twist. A Sigma female rarely expects betrayal. Why? Because she's too busy not needing anyone to notice the simmering resentment in her orbit. Sure, she's been called aloof, maybe even too good for her own circle, but is it her fault others can't handle the quiet confidence of a woman who doesn't need validation? Probably. So why does betrayal seem to follow Sigma females like a shadow they never asked for? Let's break down the anatomy of this cruel phenomenon. It's a tale of independence, insecurity, and people who can't help but bite the hand that's too strong to hold. Number 1. Their unfiltered honesty reveals insecurities. Sigma females are known for their unfiltered honesty, a quality that can either inspire admiration or ignite resentment. They don't dress their words in flattery or bend the truth to appease egos. Instead, they speak directly, cutting through pretenses and facades with a clarity that's rare and sometimes uncomfortable. This raw authenticity, while rooted in integrity, often becomes a double-edged sword. For those closest to a Sigma female, her honesty can feel like a spotlight exposing vulnerabilities they'd rather keep hidden. It's not that she sets out to hurt anyone, she simply refuses to tiptoe around the truth. But in a world where many people thrive on polite lies and half-truths, her straightforwardness can be misinterpreted as cold or judgmental. Over time, this perceived brutality creates tension, planting seeds of resentment. The irony is that Sigma females don't wield their honesty to belittle others. They value it as a foundation for growth and connection. Yet their closest relationships often suffer because not everyone is ready to confront their own insecurities. Her candid words might sting, but instead of inspiring self-reflection, they provoke defensiveness. And defensiveness has a way of twisting into betrayal when people feel cornered. To make matters worse, Sigma females rarely explain or sugarcoat their intentions. They assume others will understand that their honesty comes from a place of respect, not malice. But this lack of emotional cushioning leaves room for misinterpretation, especially among those who crave validation. In the end, the Sigma female's commitment to authenticity becomes her Achilles heel. Her unfiltered words, meant to foster understanding and truth, often push others into a cycle of insecurity and retaliation. And when betrayal strikes, she's left wondering how something as noble as honesty could lead to such heartbreak. Number 2, people project their own failures onto them. Sigma females possess a unique ability to illuminate the potential in those around them, simply by being who they are. Their independence, resilience, and drive act as an unspoken challenge to others, a reminder of what's possible when someone is unapologetically true to themselves. But this can be a double-edged sword. For some, being in the presence of a Sigma female feels like an unintentional spotlight on their own shortcomings. This isn't because Sigma females criticize or belittle. On the contrary, they often prefer to focus on their own path rather than compare themselves to others. However, their quiet achievements and self-assured demeanor can make others painfully aware of their own unfulfilled potential or missed opportunities. It's not what a Sigma female says, it's what she represents, a life lived authentically and on her terms. For individuals who struggle with feelings of inadequacy or failure, this reflection can be unbearable. Rather than addressing their insecurities or striving to better themselves, they might project those feelings outward. The Sigma female becomes an easy target, not because she's done anything wrong, but because she reminds them of what they haven't done. Betrayal, in this context, often stems from a distorted attempt to level the playing field. By undermining or hurting a Sigma female, they subconsciously hope to diminish her power and, by extension, quiet the nagging voice in their own heads. It's not about the Sigma female at all. It's about their own inability to face their failures. The cruel irony is that Sigma females are often the least judgmental of others' journeys, but their mere existence challenges those unwilling to confront their own struggles. In the end, the betrayal says more about the betrayer than it ever could about her. Number 3. The unintended isolation from being too capable. Sigma females carry themselves with an air of competence that can seem almost untouchable. They manage their lives with precision, handle challenges independently, and rarely ask for help. To outsiders, and even those closest to them, this can create an illusion of invincibility. People assume that a Sigma female has everything under control, leaving little room to step in, offer support, or share the emotional load. This perception of being too capable creates an unintended barrier in relationships. When people see someone thriving without visible struggles, they begin to feel irrelevant or unneeded. Human relationships often thrive on mutual exchanges of vulnerability, and when one party seems to have no visible cracks, the connection can feel one-sided. Over time, this can breed resentment or emotional detachment. Ironically, Sigma females don't intentionally push others away. Their independence isn't a rejection of support, it's simply their default mode. They've likely grown accustomed to solving problems on their own, often because life has taught them that relying on others isn't always an option. Yet, this very strength becomes a double-edged sword as it fosters isolation. As people drift further from the Sigma female, they may begin to rationalize their emotional distance. She doesn't need me anyway, they think, which can lead to selfish behaviors or worse, betrayal. After all, when someone appears self-sufficient to the point of invulnerability, loyalty and reciprocity can feel optional. The heartbreaking reality is that Sigma females are often left carrying their burdens alone, not because they want to, but because others assume they don't need help. Over time, this dynamic erodes trust and intimacy, leaving the Sigma female isolated and vulnerable to the very betrayals she thought her strength would protect her from. Number 4. Their resistance to manipulation breeds contempt. Sigma females are fiercely independent and unapologetically resistant to manipulation. This isn't out of defiance for its own sake, but because they value authenticity and refuse to bend to external pressures. While many people navigate relationships through subtle influences, compromises, or unspoken expectations, Sigma females operate differently. They stand firm in their boundaries and are not easily swayed, even by those closest to them. This unwavering stance often creates tension. In close relationships, there's an unspoken dance of give and take, sometimes involving influence or persuasion to maintain harmony. But when a Sigma female refuses to budge or resists being controlled, it can throw this dynamic off balance. For those who are used to exerting subtle control over others, her resistance feels like rejection or defiance, sparking frustration and resentment. Over time, this frustration can morph into contempt. To someone who thrives on having influence, a Sigma female's refusal to conform might feel like a direct challenge to their authority or relevance. They may perceive her independence as arrogance or obstinacy, even when she's simply holding true to her values. Betrayal becomes a twisted form of retaliation. Unable to control her, they seek to undermine her instead, whether through gossip, sabotage, or outright disloyalty. It's a way of reasserting power and proving that her independence isn't as unshakable as it seems. The irony is that Sigma females aren't trying to dominate or reject others. They simply prioritize their autonomy and authenticity over appeasing egos. But this steadfastness, while admirable, often provokes the very betrayals they seek to avoid. Those who can't handle her resistance turn to betrayal as their last grasp at control, a futile attempt to break what they couldn't bend. Number 5. The underdog effect backfires. Sigma females often start their journeys as underdogs, quietly working in the background, underestimated by those around them. This makes them naturally appealing to others who admire resilience and root for those who appear to be fighting against the odds. People rally behind them, offering support, encouragement, and even loyalty. There's something inspiring about watching someone rise from obscurity, especially when they seem humble and unassuming. But the trouble begins when the Sigma female not only rises but surpasses everyone's expectations. Her transformation from the underestimated to the unstoppable can shift the dynamic in unsettling ways. Those who were initially captivated by her underdog charm may start to feel overshadowed as her growth outpaces theirs. What began as admiration for her resilience turns into envy of her achievements. This envy is particularly sharp because it's unexpected. The same people who cheered her on now find themselves grappling with feelings of inadequacy or irrelevance in her shadow. They may feel as though her success has somehow invalidated their own support or made their contribution seem insignificant. For some, this emotional shift becomes too much to bear. Betrayal surfaces as a misguided attempt to level the playing field and bring her back down to a place they're more comfortable with. Whether through undermining her efforts, spreading doubt, or outright disloyalty, the betrayal serves as a way to reclaim a sense of balance in a relationship that no longer feels equal. The tragedy lies in the Sigma female's unawareness of this dynamic. To her, the support she received was genuine and unconditional, not contingent on her staying in the role of the underdog. The betrayal feels like a cruel twist, a punishment for daring to grow beyond the expectations others set for her. Number 6. Others mistake their self-sufficiency for a lack of need. Sigma. Females are masters of self-sufficiency. They handle their lives with a level of competence that can leave others in awe, but this very trait often creates unintended consequences in their relationships. People are hardwired to feel valued when they are needed, whether it's offering a listening ear, lending a hand, or simply being a source of comfort. When someone appears to have no need for these things, it can make others feel irrelevant or unimportant. Those closest to a Sigma female might initially admire her independence, but over time, her self-reliance can erode the sense of connection they feel. If she rarely asks for help, rarely shares her vulnerabilities, or rarely depends on them, they may begin to question their role in her life. What purpose do they serve if she seems to have everything figured out on her own? This dynamic can breed resentment. Instead of appreciating her strength, they may misinterpret it as emotional distance or indifference. "She doesn't need me" quickly turns into "she doesn't value me," even if that couldn't be further from the truth. For some, this resentment festers into a desire to regain a sense of significance, often through destructive means. Betrayal becomes a twisted form of asserting relevance. By sabotaging her, undermining her success, or breaking her trust, they force a reaction, one that reestablishes their presence in her life, even if it's in a negative way. It's a misguided attempt to prove their importance, born out of the insecurity that her self-sufficiency has unintentionally triggered. For the Sigma female, this betrayal feels deeply confusing. Her independence isn't a rejection of others, but a natural expression of her personality. Yet, her strength becomes the very thing that drives others to lash out, revealing how misunderstood self-sufficiency can be in the delicate balance of human relationships. Number 7. The fear of being outgrown. Sigma. Females thrive on personal growth and constant evolution. They aren't content with staying in the same place, mentally, emotionally, or even physically. Their lives are defined by a relentless pursuit of self-improvement, new challenges, and experiences that push them beyond their limits. This drive, while inspiring, can inadvertently create a gap between them and those around them. In relationships, people often find comfort in stability and predictability. When a Sigma female continues to grow and change, it can leave those in her inner circle feeling destabilized. Friends, partners, or even family members may start to feel as though they are being left behind. While she is climbing higher and exploring new possibilities, they might be struggling to keep up, or even worse, choosing not to grow at all. This dynamic can spark feelings of inadequacy and fear. Instead of celebrating her achievements, those closest to her may begin to see her growth as a threat to their bond. They might wonder, what happens when she outgrows me completely? Will I still matter to her if I can't match her pace? These fears, though unspoken, can create a simmering resentment that eventually bubbles over. For some, betrayal becomes a way of coping with this perceived abandonment. By undermining her, spreading doubt, or creating obstacles, they hope to anchor her to a place where they feel more comfortable, closer to where they are. It's not about malice, but a desperate attempt to maintain relevance in a relationship that feels like it's slipping away. The painful irony is that Sigma females rarely intend to leave anyone behind. Their growth isn't a rejection of others, but a natural expression of their restless spirit. Yet their very evolution can trigger betrayals that cut deep, making them question if their journey forward is worth the cost of what they leave behind. Number 8. The misinterpretation of emotional reserve. Sigma females are known for their emotional reserve, a trait that sets them apart from others who wear their hearts on their sleeves. They don't share every thought or feeling, often choosing to keep their emotions close to the chest. This isn't because they don't trust those around them, it's simply how they navigate the world. Their inner lives are rich, but they prefer to process emotions privately rather than burden others with them. However, this emotional distance can easily be misinterpreted by those who don't understand this part of their nature. To the untrained eye, the Sigma female's guarded demeanor may come across as aloofness or worse, a lack of trust. In a world where emotional openness is often seen as a sign of connection, her reticence can leave people feeling shut out. When others reach out, hoping for a deeper connection, they may find themselves met with silence or a carefully measured response. Over time, this can create a sense of alienation, especially in close relationships where emotional vulnerability is expected. Those who are on the receiving end of this emotional reserve might start to feel unimportant, rejected, or even betrayed by the perceived distance. They may misinterpret the Sigma female's need for space as a sign that she doesn't value them or their relationship. The more they try to bridge this gap without success, the more frustration and resentment can build. In their minds, the betrayal becomes a form of payback. If they feel neglected or unloved, their actions may be driven by a desire to make her feel the same way. They justify their disloyalty by convincing themselves that it's a response to being shut out. It's a misguided attempt to regain control over a relationship that feels increasingly one-sided. For the Sigma female, this betrayal is particularly painful because it stems from a misunderstanding of her intentions. Her emotional reserve wasn't meant to create distance or rejection, it was simply her way of maintaining emotional balance. Yet in a world that craves constant openness and vulnerability, her quiet strength becomes a battleground for those who can't see the difference between privacy and indifference. To number 9. Their success rewrites social dynamics. When a Sigma female achieves success, it doesn't just reflect her personal growth, it shifts the very fabric of the social dynamics around her. Unlike others who might seek validation or approval from their inner circles, Sigma females tend to succeed quietly, often without fanfare or seeking acknowledgement. But when that success becomes undeniable, it's impossible for the people in her orbit to ignore. And that's when things start to get complicated. In any social structure, there's a natural hierarchy, even if it's unspoken. People tend to know their place, consciously or unconsciously, within a given group: who's at the top, who's a follower, who provides support. When a Sigma female steps out of the shadows and achieves a level of success that disrupts this status quo, it shakes up the delicate balance of the group. Suddenly, the person who was once considered an outsider or less prominent is now standing at the forefront, and that shift can be deeply unsettling for those who have always occupied higher or more stable positions. The disruption of these social dynamics doesn't always lead to admiration or pride. Instead, it often breeds insecurity and envy. Those who once saw themselves as the center of attention or as the alpha in the group may start to feel threatened. The Sigma female's success challenges their sense of superiority or relevance. She's no longer just an independent figure on the periphery. She's a force that demands attention, and that forces others to reevaluate their own positions. In the face of this perceived loss of status, betrayal can emerge as a defense mechanism. People may begin to undermine her accomplishments, spread rumors, or create obstacles to put her in her place. Betrayal, in this case, isn't just about personal animosity. It's a reaction to the disruption of a hierarchy that once worked in their favor. The desire to reassert control or superiority becomes more important than supporting the person who once was considered beneath them. For the Sigma female, this betrayal is a painful reminder that success isn't just about achievement. It can shift the entire dynamic of relationships. What she sees as personal growth and accomplishment, others may see as a threat to their sense of self-worth. And in trying to regain their footing, they'll often resort to betrayal, hoping to return things to the order they're familiar with. Number 10. The threat of unshakable independence. Sigma females' fierce self-reliance is one of their most defining traits. They don't lean on others for validation or support. Instead, they carve their own path, make their own decisions, and navigate life's challenges with quiet confidence. While this autonomy is empowering, it can also be perceived as a threat by those closest to them. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendships, people often find comfort in knowing their presence is needed, that they play an integral role in someone else's life. But a Sigma female's ability to stand strong alone, without seeking approval or assistance, can create a subtle but powerful sense of insecurity in others. When others feel overshadowed by her independence, the relationship dynamic shifts. What was once seen as admirable self-sufficiency can, in some minds, begin to feel isolating or even alienating. The more the Sigma female stands firm in her independence, the more those around her may feel pushed aside, irrelevant, or unnecessary. This creates a brewing sense of jealousy or resentment, which can sometimes manifest in betrayal. The betrayal is not always born out of malice, but out of a subconscious need to reclaim power or control. The act of undermining her or betraying her trust becomes a way to reassert dominance or restore the balance that feels threatened by her unshakable self-reliance. For these individuals, seeing the Sigma female succeed alone without needing anyone else can feel like a harsh reminder of their own vulnerabilities or dependence. Instead of appreciating her strength, they may project their insecurities onto her, lashing out to regain a sense of significance in her life. In the end, the Sigma female's independence, though empowering for her, is often perceived as a challenge to those who depend on others for validation. Betrayal becomes an unconscious response, a misguided way of trying to regain power in the face of someone who doesn't need them. And while this can be painful for the Sigma female, it only further solidifies her strength. She remains unshaken, even when those around her falter. In the end, the betrayal of a Sigma female is a complex and painful reflection of human nature, a mix of insecurity, jealousy, and misunderstanding. She stands as a symbol of independence and strength, but her very essence challenges the comfort zones of those around her. Her honesty, self-sufficiency, and relentless growth act as a mirror, revealing the hidden fears and inadequacies of others. Yet despite her quiet resilience, the world often perceives her as an enigma, one whose success or emotional reserve inadvertently isolates her. The irony is that betrayal rarely comes from a place of malice, but from the fear of being left behind, overshadowed, or deemed irrelevant. In a world built on social dynamics, status, and validation, the Sigma female's refusal to conform can make her both a beacon of inspiration and a target of resentment. Those closest to her may act out of a misguided attempt to reclaim control, significance, or a sense of balance. But in the end, their betrayal is a hollow attempt to disrupt what they cannot comprehend or conquer. For the Sigma female, the journey is never about others' perceptions or approval. She moves forward, relentlessly carving her own path, even when those around her cannot understand it. And while betrayal may sting, it only reinforces what she already knows, that true strength lies in independence, and that her worth is not defined by the actions of those who never truly understood her. It's a bittersweet reality, but one she embraces with quiet grace, knowing that her true value will never be dictated by anyone else's fear or insecurities. If you found yourself captivated by the journey of the Sigma female and the complexities of betrayal, then you won't want to miss what's coming next. Dive deeper into the world of powerful, independent individuals who refuse to conform and challenge the norms. Don't just watch. Be a part of this growing community. Subscribe to the channel now, hit that notification bell, and join us as we explore more fascinating insights that will keep you thinking long after the video ends. This is just the beginning, so stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. Thanks, damsels, for tuning in. See you in the next vid. Bye, and stay blessed.